In the laundry basket in the bathroom, I found evidence of Woo Young's affair. A white shirt collar with 2 bright red lipstick marks stabbed my eyes, making them sore, and tears uncontrollably spilled from my eyes. Woo Young, acting like nothing happened, was playing games in the study. I really wanted to kick the door open, the door that he used every day to escape from reality, avoiding family responsibilities. I wanted to slap him hard and ask why he spoke empty words and did such filthy things. At this moment, our son Xian Xian, who was doing homework in the room, called me to sign his assignment. This seemingly harmonious but estranged marriage has affected Xian Xian. I couldn't argue in front of the child, letting him be hurt again. Thinking of this, I forced back my tears. Lying in bed, I didn't sleep all night. Finally, when the alarm clock rang, my eyes were so swollen that I took a deep breath and got out of bed. I endured the anger in my heart, quickly made scallion and egg pancakes, oatmeal with milk, and mixed 2 small dishes that Xian Xian liked. Watching him finish eating, completely satisfied, packing his bag and leaving, he didn't notice anything unusual. The tension in my heart finally relaxed. Kicking open the door to the study, the strong smell of smoke almost choked me. Woo Young, like a dead pig, was lying on the single bed snoring. Even the sound of kicking the door couldn't wake him up. I grabbed the leftover tea on the computer desk and poured it on his face. Woo Young was instantly startled. The tea that was poured into his mouth made him cough several times. When he realized what had happened, his eyes stared like copper bells, glaring at me, asking what I was doing. After venting my emotions, Woo Young looked at me as if I were crazy, asking me not to meddle and find trouble for myself. If I couldn't accept it, I could divorce. Listening to him casually mention the word divorce, I felt like my backbone had been pulled out, and I collapsed. Yes, from beginning to end, it was just me, wishfully trying to sustain this marriage. My name is Li Feng, and I met Woo Young in an unexpected way. He accidentally scratched my car while delivering food. Afraid of the order being overdue, he left his contact information and hurriedly left. At that time, I had just started working and was driving my dad's second-hand car, which wasn't worth much. Since I could understand the difficulties of a food delivery person, I didn't plan to make him compensate, so I didn't contact him. Unexpectedly, Woo Young managed to find me and took me to repair the paint. He also apologized by treating me to a meal, leaving me with a stable and reliable impression. Later, he began to pursue me. At that time, food delivery wasn't as common, and his creative daily deliveries of carrying meals, flowers, and milk tea became a spectacle in the office. Colleagues often joked that Woo Young was the princess's knight. Hearing these words frequently, I gradually lost myself and truly started considering myself his princess, to the extent that I felt I could only marry him. Naturally, my parents disagreed. They didn't like Woo Young due to his lack of education, no formal job, and rural background, which they considered a burden. But in my eyes, none of these were issues. Woo Young only completed junior high school, and I was just an ordinary graduate from a second-tier university, working in a mundane clerical job with a salary lower than what he earned from delivering food. As for his rural background, it had nothing to do with me. I had no intention of returning to the village with him. My dad owned a small factory. While not extremely wealthy, he had enough to provide me with a house. As long as Woo Young treated me well, we could get by. However, this was just my wishful thinking. My parents said if I insisted on marrying him, they wouldn't ask for a dowry and wouldn't contribute a penny to the wedding. I thought they were just trying to scare me, so I stubbornly got married without their approval, even secretly obtaining a marriage certificate, forcing their hand. My mom got so angry she ended up in the hospital, and my dad kicked me out of the house. Fortunately, Woo Young was always there to comfort me, and the wedding went ahead as planned. Though my parents were angry, they couldn't bear to completely abandon me. They sent my cousin and younger brother to support me. On the wedding night, lying in the rented house, holding the bank card my brother gave me, thinking of the message from my parents he conveyed, "This is the path I chose for myself. Take care of yourself and don't regret it," I took a deep breath. I was determined to live happily and prove to my parents that I hadn't made the wrong choice. But real life isn't like a fairy tale. Marriage doesn't guarantee a perfect ending. Perhaps it confirmed the saying that marriages without parental blessings mostly end in unhappiness. Not long after the calm days of marriage, the concerns my dad had expressed began to manifest. Woo Young encountered problems at work. In those 2 years, the food delivery industry rapidly expanded, but internal competition became intense. In Wu Yong's words, despite maintaining the same delivery volume as before, he could only earn half of his previous salary. If there was a negative review or complaint, he'd end up working for nothing that day. Before long, unable to endure it, he quit. Despite searching for new jobs, nothing worked out for him. Frustrated, Wu Yong chose to embrace a more leisurely lifestyle, spending his days at home playing games. Seeing the baby in need of care and the monthly bills for rent and utilities, I grew anxious and urged him to at least find a job. Wu Yong, no longer the gentle person he used to be, erupted. He jumped up, smashing the keyboard into pieces, and with red eyes, he asked me if I looked down on him like my dad did. Roaring at me like an enraged lion, he said, "If you don't want to live like this, then get lost." His aggression frightened me, and I couldn't believe he would treat me this way. I cried all night while holding the baby. However, the thought of divorce made me hesitate. Considering the chaos caused by marrying Wu Yong in the first place, how would my parents and relatives perceive me if I returned home quietly? I had to endure the injustice and continue to bury my grievances, focusing on getting through each day. However, my compromises only fueled Wu Yong's worsening behavior. Exploiting my fear of divorce, he spent his time either indulging in pleasures with friends or gaming loudly at home, paying no attention to the fact that our child was still very young, and I needed rest too. Every discussion turned into a major argument, and after each fight, Wu Yong continued as if nothing happened, while I felt like I had just recovered from a severe illness after several days. Gradually, I became disheartened and stopped expecting anything from him, deciding to find a way to earn money on my own. Fortunately, my mother-in-law from the countryside agreed to come and help take care of the child. The income from my job was meager, and starting a shop without capital was not feasible. So, I decided to rent a stall and immersed myself in the wholesale fruit market, working tirelessly. Unafraid of hardship, with a bit of business acumen instilled by my dad since childhood, and after overcoming initial difficulties, my business quickly gained momentum. In just 2 years, my fruit stall transformed into a small supermarket, and life became more comfortable. After saving some money, considering my son's education, I decided not to expand the business further and planned to buy a house. Guided by my mother-in-law, Wu Yong also restrained himself. With the introduction from his sister's husband, he secured a position in a factory's logistics department. Just when I thought life was finally showing a glimmer of light, Wu Yong dealt me a heavy blow. He got involved with a coworker, and she ended up pregnant. Caught by her husband, Wu Yong not only got beaten severely but also faced threats to tarnish his reputation. To settle the matter, Wu Yong had to pay a sum of money. By the time I found out, the hard-earned down payment of over 200,000 for the house had vanished. I completely broke down, had intense arguments with Wu Yong, and our home was in constant chaos. Fed up with the constant fights, Wu Yong, irritated, seized the opportunity when I shouted at him again, saying that if it weren't for the child, he would have left me a long time ago. He roughly grabbed our child and pushed him towards me, harshly saying he would let me have my way and told me to leave with the child. Before I could react, Xian threw away his toy, his small body kicking and hitting me, crying and saying he didn't want to go with me. Seeing his little face turn red, tears streaming down, I tried to embrace him, but he resisted, running into the room, smashing his toys and study materials. The unusual behavior of the child alarmed me. The doctor diagnosed it as typical childhood anxiety symptoms, warning that without intervention, it could develop into a severe psychological disorder. Along with recommending psychological therapy, the doctor emphasized the need to change the living environment and create a more relaxed family atmosphere. The doctor's words left me with a lingering fear. Reflecting on these years, I realized I had been entirely focused on running the fruit shop, neglecting my child. To fully accompany my child, I hired someone to manage the fruit shop. However, Wu Yong refused to cooperate, claiming I was making a big deal out of nothing. I had considered divorce, but I was afraid of upsetting my child. This marriage, from initially wanting to prove myself to my parents to now wanting to give my child a complete family, has become a tight shackle around my head. Unable to divorce and not relying on him, I had to endure my anger and establish 3 rules with him. No more money from the family, no coming back to disturb the child, and as long as he still carried the title of a father, he shouldn't mess around outside. Wu Yong enjoyed his newfound freedom. After my mother-in-law went home, he turned the vacant bedroom into a study, complete with a computer desk. He would come home and immediately retreat into it, treating it as his refuge. I paid little attention to him, focusing all my thoughts on the child. With my careful companionship and several rounds of psychological counseling, Xian Xian's condition improved. He no longer became easily agitated, stopped acting out violently, and developed a closer bond with me. A few years passed, and my child reached the 3rd grade, consistently achieving above-average grades. However, the doctor's words from the past continued to hang over me like a sword, and I dared not relax, only hoping that my child could smoothly navigate through the rebellious phase. Unexpectedly, right at this critical juncture, Wu Yong would once again stir up trouble for me. Over the years, I had long given up on him, indifferent to his betrayals. What angered me was that my son was growing older, becoming aware of certain things. If he discovered Wu Yong's dirty deeds, what would I do? The thought of him committing such filthy acts and shamelessly yelling for a divorce made me not only powerless against him but also forced me to cover for him in front of our son, leaving me both angry and resentful. I had thought of enduring these sordid affairs, but Wu Yong didn't give me the chance. Turns out, this time he was groveling to a wealthy divorced woman, over 10 years his senior. To prove his loyalty, he insisted on divorcing me. The lipstick marks were intentionally displayed for me to see. Things had reached such a point that it seemed divorce was inevitable. Thinking about how to conceal the dirty deeds of my child's father from him, I decided it was better to tell him that his father had gone to work in another city. I reluctantly agreed to the divorce, with the only requirement being that when the child needed him, he should symbolically appear. What surprised me was that, over a year after the divorce, my child never asked about his so-called father. On the contrary, my parents, upon learning of my divorce, actively contacted me, asking me to bring the child back. They not only helped me buy a house in the city but also arranged for the child to transfer household registration and school enrollment. When I decided to tell everything to my son, he didn't react as emotionally as I had imagined. He calmly stated that he had already anticipated it. No one in the family mentioned the past, as if I had just taken a long trip. The only difference was that they now had a great-grandson. They showered Xian Xian with love, and the child's smile became more frequent. After a semester of adjustment, Xian Xian's grades soared. During a conversation, he quietly told me that he used to have a classmate whose parents quarreled all the time. Fed up with his father's behavior, they decided to attend a boarding school together. Now, he enjoys being with his mom, grandparents, so he is working hard in his studies to attend the best nearby high school. Seeing my child finally opening up to me, I cried tears of joy. It was at this moment that I realized those who couldn't accept the failure of the marriage were not my parents or my child. The one lacking the courage to take the step of divorce was always me. Due to a momentary lapse in judgment, these years brought me so much pain. I regretted, lamented, and then felt a hint of luck. After all, I still had the opportunity to start a new life. I heard that Wu Yong's health deteriorated due to late-night gaming and excessive smoking. When the wealthy woman kicked him out, I felt indifferent. He and I had no connection anymore. I never expected him to go to the school to find our son. However, I wasn't too worried. I believed my son had the ability to distinguish right from wrong. Sure enough, Xian Xian told me that he only responded to Wu Yong with one sentence. They only had a legal father-son relationship, and even if he wanted to sue for child support, he would have to wait until he came of age. Hearing my son's words, I burst out laughing. Thinking of Wu Yong's indifference to the child for those years and now facing the consequences, who could he blame but himself?